last month we were reminding ourselves what that SAMR model is all about. And what I had asked you to do is to bring today a lesson, either that is your own, or that you're trying to help a teacher with, that maybe has some technology and you'd like to try to bump it up a little, or maybe has no technology and you just wanted to brainstorm with somebody some ideas. So in a couple of minutes, we're going to pair up with a partner. You're going to have 10 minutes to share a lesson, try to determine between the two of you, is this just pure substitution? Does it have a little augmentation? Is it really modifying the task that the student would do? Or does it really redefine what you could do in a student lesson because you're using technology? But what I'd like you to also do at the same time is pull out the piece of paper here. It has that time schedule on the back, and on the front it says active listening. How many of you have been taught something about active listening in your past, whether it was in business or as a teacher or anything else? Or is active listening, so Karen, you've kind of sort of. But you, yeah, and you too, okay. So what would you say, either of the two of you, from the deep dark corners of your mind, was the supposed benefit of active listening?
People who are getting a lesson and acting at the same time, like you're demonstrating it and they're doing it along with you. So they're, and then they repeat back to you in a way like you ask a question, a leading question, and then they would respond back.
Okay. So yeah, so it's that idea of you're having a conversation, but you're trying to do your best to really pay attention to what's being said. So it's more, it's more to try to be paying attention to what somebody's saying, more than trying to jump to an answer for them. Because a lot of times, and you know, I think every one of us is as guilty as the next person. If somebody says, hey, Ann, I want to do this, the first thing you want to do is jump in and give them an answer. Like the other day, you know, Anita was saying to me, I was thinking about blogging and what do you think? And the first thing that you want to do is go, well, this, and the other thing, but then you gotta, and we weren't face to face, but you want to pause and you want to think about where are they coming from, what are they thinking about, so that you arm yourself with more information to end up helping them. So active listening, and I'll do like a quick little, somebody will share out the lesson, and I'll try to model some of that active listening for you. And then as you're working with your partner looking at the lesson, what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to put some stickies around the room, and as you're having your lesson presented, I'd like you to write down on the sticky, is there something that that person said that you said, oh, that's a nice way to phrase that question? And just write it on the sticky as a reminder for yourself. So when you're doing active listening, one thing you want to do is you want to paraphrase. So who has the lesson off the top of your head that you're going to talk to somebody about in a minute? Or nobody wrote lesson. Okay, so Karen.
I don't have the physical lesson with me,
Right.
but I tried this last year and it didn't necessarily work as well as I want to. Working with second grade, doing a penguin report with your diorama, and trying to, put some technology into that. Dioramas are not technology, so I tried to use like a story creator type app, but didn't work as well.
Okay, so I listen to what she's saying, and what I want to do is I want to paraphrase what I think I'm hearing. So you kind of use words like, so what I'm hearing is it sounds like one of the classroom teachers has a standard diorama project, and she asked you to try to do something technology-wise with that project? Okay. And see, that was a 50-50 lucky guess, because the other half of the 50-50 is you saw dioramas sitting in the hallway and you How can I extend the second grade lesson? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to really deeply listen to what she's saying and rephrase it and just ask, is that correct? Now, the other thing that you're doing with active listening is you're trying to pay attention to the emotion that's behind what's being said. And so what I might also, after she said, yeah, that's really what the situation was, I might try to think about what she seems to be feeling, and you would say, when you did that project, it sounds like you were maybe just slightly satisfied with the outcome, and could you tell me more about that? Or were you pretty satisfied but you'd like to push it a little harder? So you're trying to reflect back what are the emotions behind it? Frustration. And so can you tell me more about what you tried to do with that story creator that worked a little bit and that really fell short of what you hoped it would be?
It took a lot longer than I wanted it to take. Recording in the classroom became an issue because there was a lot of background noise. We ran into some breaks that I didn't see them for a couple weeks, and then the teacher sent the dialogues home, so I didn't get to do it with everybody. I was like, oh. So there was a lot of roadblocks where I didn't go as smoothly as because I only had them to do it once a week.
And so tell me more about, and this is what you're doing, you're sort of paraphrasing what she said and trying to gather more information. So tell me, if you think about the project, what could have made it better, perhaps, that if you kept in the back of your head, maybe these projects are going to disappear faster than you want? Is there something that the story creator would have let you do in advance that maybe would have made that become less of an issue?
I probably should have used it in conjunction with their computer time, so I would have had 2 times a week working on it with them. So I could have supplemented what I wasn't doing them in the classroom, doing it in my class with the app, so that would have worked better instead of trying to do it all with them during their class time.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then is it was an app, so you must have been using an iPad to interact with? Okay. And what did the app do how did the student interact with the app?
They basically took their story, recreated it in the story creator, imported pictures that they didn't have, and then read it, voiced over it, and then at the end we were taking a picture of them with their actual diorama onto the lesson.
And so, this is what you're doing is you're going back and forth. So, as I'm thinking about things, I'm starting to think in the back of my head some suggestions I might have, but I'm still holding them back. And eventually you might get to the part where you would say, well, do you think it would make sense to take a photo of each child in advance? Do you think it would make sense to, have the kids, and so that's where you're going to be brainstorming. And you want to make sure, again, another part of active listening is to be kind of neutral. You just want, I love talking. And so, it's just like, you gotta bite your tongue, but you wanna let them know that you're involved in the conversation by shaking the head, by keeping eye contact. You want to ask those clarifying questions, tell me more about this piece, tell me more about that piece. And then finally, what you would do is you'd say, well, I think I see what you're aiming at. Then it looks like you're happy that you had this final digital outcome, so the kids had a permanent copy of this diorama, and they were explaining their learning, but you're just not satisfied with the tool that you used. And so now that I have that information, I can begin thinking about things that I might know that I could perhaps offer this person some help with. And whenever you do any work with teachers, I want you to fall back on something we talked about last year that didn't come across very heavily in the last workshop, Michael, is you always, before you talk about technology, you want to start with what is the student learning? What is that outcome? And so, you know, I would talk to Karen about what was the teacher's learning goal. And perhaps the teacher was looking to reinforce what they said. Or perhaps the teacher just wanted to have a video that they could use at back to school night. But whatever it is, you want to get at what's the goal of the student learning. What did she ever do with dioramas before this teacher that is the reason that she wants to push it a little further with technology? And was there a component that she did with technology before that she's keeping? So maybe she had the kids just stand next to the diorama and took a still photo in previous years. And if they were using that part of technology already, what could get in the way of them doing just a still photo again? Is it that they didn't have a place to post those photos? You know, maybe it would have been enough to say, you know, if you really just wanted to share the photos, here's a couple ideas. And asking the teacher, what would you like to have the student explore in a different way by using the technology? And finally, the big goal is, what are your teachers' learning needs? So it sounds like you took on the bulk of the technology, and so is there something that you could say, hey, here's an idea, I'm going to teach you how to use the camera, and you're going to teach, or I'll teach the second graders how to use the camera, they'll take all the photos in advance. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, we're still leaving pairs, this is good, okay. So what I'd like you to do is, we're just going to pair off evenly 2 and 2 and 2 and 2, 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. And I'm going to put out some sticky notes. And this active listening set feels really uncomfortable and unnatural at first because it can feel like you're being a parent. So what I hear you say is that you've got a diorama, is that correct? So what I hear you say is that, it really feels a little unnatural, which is why I want to start practicing this here. Over the next couple months, we're going to keep coming back to this, share a lesson, try using those active listening techniques. And as somebody's working with you, they may ask a really great question like, oh my gosh, I love how you asked that. Let me write that down first. That's what we're going to use the sticky notes for.